You know, when you've been alive for 91 years, you start seeing patterns that most people miss. I've watched fortunes rise and fall. I've seen families struggle month after month, drowning in bills, working jobs that steal their joy, their time, their peace. And I've also watched something magical happen in the gardens of people who dared to think differently, something that changed everything. And I'm not talking about winning the lottery or getting lucky. I'm talking about something I learned when I was just about your age. Something so simple that most people walk right past it without ever truly seeing it. Something that's been hiding in plain sight, waiting to be planted in your very own backyard. And tonight, I want to share this with you, because at 91 years old, I understand that the greatest gift an old soul can give is the gift of wisdom earned through decades of living. Let me take you back with me. It's 1958, and I'm a young man working 2 jobs, barely making ends meet. My wife and we had a small house with a patch of land that our neighbours thought was worthless. It was just dirt to them, brown, ordinary dirt. But my grandmother, God bless her soul, she saw something different. She came to visit one spring, and she walked straight to that back corner, knelt down and smiled at the earth like she was greeting an old friend. She said something to me that day that I've never forgotten. Child, the richest people in the world are those who understand that their wealth is growing right beneath their feet, and they just don't know it yet. At the time, I didn't understand what she meant. I was tired, I was worried. The bills kept coming and my paychecks kept disappearing. But she pulled my hand, led me to that patch of nothing, and she taught me something that would reshape the rest of my life. She taught me about herbs. Not just any herbs, but the ones that the whole world desperately needs and is willing to pay for. Year after year, month after month, she showed me how certain plants, the right plants, growing right there in your backyard, could turn into a steady stream of income that never needed a resume, never needed an interview, and never could be taken away from you. Now, when I say cash crop, people often think I mean something complicated or illegal. I want to be absolutely clear. I'm talking about something completely legal, something ethical, something beautiful, and something that's been used for thousands of years to heal, to nourish, and to create real wealth. I'm talking about medicinal and culinary herbs. And I know, that probably sounds too simple to be true. But that's because we've been taught that money has to be complicated. We've been taught that wealth only comes from having the right job, the right degree, or the right connections. My grandmother knew something different. She knew that real, sustainable wealth comes from providing something that people need, something that they come back for again and again. Think about it for a moment. How many people do you know who are stressed about money? Everyone, right? How many of them would benefit from herbs that heal, that help them sleep better, that ease their anxiety naturally? Almost all of them. And here's the beautiful part. These herbs don't require an MBA to grow. They don't require fancy equipment. They don't require you to move to a different country or invest a small fortune up front. They require sunshine, a little bit of water, and patience. Things that are already free in your life. I'll be honest with you. The first year was humbling. I grew chamomile, peppermint, thyme, and oregano. I dried them myself, learning from old gardening books and from my grandmother's careful hands showing me the way. I made terrible mistakes. I planted at the wrong time. I harvested too early. Some of my plants died and I felt defeated. But I kept learning. By year 2, I was selling small bundles to a local tea shop down the street. $5 for a bundle. That might not sound like much, but when you grow 15 bundles a week, that's $75. When you grow it all yourself, that's almost pure profit. By year 5, I was supplying multiple tea shops, health food stores, and I'd even started getting orders from people who'd heard about my herbs through word of mouth. My wife began helping me with the drying and packaging, turning it into something that brought us closer together. And here's what amazed me most. The bills that had haunted me for so long, the ones that kept me awake at night, they suddenly stopped feeling so heavy. Not because I became rich overnight, not because I won anything, but because I'd created something stable, something real, something that grew a little bit more every single season. You see, most people approach money from a place of scarcity. They think there's only so much to go around, so they work harder and harder, running faster and faster on a treadmill that never slows down. But my grandmother taught me something profound. She taught me that when you align your work with nature, when you work with the seasons instead of against them, when you provide something that people genuinely need, scarcity becomes abundance without you even trying that hard. Think about a grocery store. They sell dried herbs in those tiny jars for $3, $4, $5. That handful of herbs probably cost them maybe 20 cents to buy wholesale. The markup is enormous. But when you're the grower, when you're also the supplier, you capture so much more of that value. You're not just making a product, you're providing something people trust because they know where it came from. They know your name. They know your story. That's worth so much more than anything mass-produced and anonymous. Over the decades, I watched this pattern repeat again and again. I grew lavender for people who wanted it for sleep and relaxation. I grew sage for people who wanted it for smudging and for cooking. I grew basil and oregano for people who wanted fresh, organic herbs for their kitchens. I grew echinacea for people who wanted to support their immune systems naturally. I even grew medicinal mushrooms on the shaded side of my property, something I never thought would work, but it did. Every single one of these plants was easy to grow, but they all had something in common. People wanted them, and they were willing to pay for them. Now, I want to give you something you can actually use. I don't want you to just feel inspired and then go back to your life unchanged. That would be a waste of all these years I've lived. Here's what you need to know to get started, and I've distilled this down to what really matters. First, start small. You don't need 5 acres. A simple corner of your backyard, maybe just a few raised beds, or even pots on a patio. That's enough. You need something that won't overwhelm you, because the biggest mistake people make is dreaming too big and then giving up when reality feels harder than fantasy. I started with maybe 30 square feet. That's it. A patch of earth about as big as a closet. Second, choose plants that people actually use regularly. Don't grow something exotic that only a handful of people want. Grow the classics. Mint, because everyone drinks tea. Lavender, because everyone wants to relax. Basil and oregano, because everyone cooks. Thyme, because it's versatile and beautiful. Chamomile, because everyone struggles to sleep sometimes. These are the plants that will sell themselves because they solve real problems that real people have every single day. Third, learn to dry and store them properly. This is important because fresh herbs are wonderful, but dried herbs last longer and are easier to sell. You can dry them in a warm, dark place, and they'll keep for months. Buy some simple glass jars, label them nicely, and suddenly you have something that looks professional and feels valuable. People buy with their eyes first. Always remember that. Fourth, start small with selling. Don't try to supply 100 stores in month one. Start with friends and family who believe in you. Take your products to a local farmer's market. Post on community boards. Let people taste and experience your herbs. Word of mouth is the most powerful marketing in the world, and it's free. I've built entire relationships based on someone telling their friend, "Oh, you have to try these herbs from this old fellow in our neighborhood." What really gets me, even at 91, is how sustainable this entire system is. After you harvest your herbs, you can let some of them go to seed. That means next year you're not buying seeds anymore, you're saving them. You're working with nature instead of against it. Your costs get lower every single year. Your knowledge gets deeper. Your customers get more loyal because they know you, they trust you, and they understand that you're not just selling them something, you're giving them something you've grown with care. I've had customers who've been buying from me for 30 years. 30 years. Can you imagine having a customer who comes back 30 years in a row? That's not a transaction, that's a relationship, that's real wealth. That's the kind of security that no layoff can take from you, that no economic recession can completely destroy, that doesn't disappear if the stock market crashes. And the money isn't the only benefit, though the money is real. Over the decades, I've watched the herbs themselves help people. I've had mothers tell me that my chamomile was the only thing that helped their anxious child sleep. I've had elderly people tell me that my herbs helped them reduce their medications under their doctor's guidance. I've had people tell me that growing these herbs themselves after buying seeds from me has changed their entire relationship with health and nature. That matters. That creates meaning. And meaning is the real currency of a good life. Now, I won't lie to you and tell you this is effortless. If you think you can just throw some seeds in the dirt and become wealthy, you're dreaming. There's work involved. There's learning involved. Some years the weather won't cooperate. Some plants will fail. Some people will want to negotiate prices lower than you're comfortable with. Some months you'll harvest less than you expected. But here's what I can tell you. In all my years, I've never gone back to being that worried young man who couldn't sleep at night because of bills. That stress is gone. The work of gardening is the kind of work that heals you while you're doing it. You're in the sunshine. You're working with your hands. You're connected to something real and alive. It's not the kind of work that destroys your spirit. It's the kind of work that builds it up. And the money, when it comes because you've provided real value, not because you've tricked someone, not because you've cut corners, but because you've given them something they genuinely need and genuinely want. You know, one of the greatest joys of being 91 years old is seeing what you've created live on without you. My grandchildren have inherited this knowledge. Some of them grow their own herbs now. Some of them have turned it into their own little businesses. One of my great-grandchildren just started selling herbal teas online, mixing different herbs I taught her to grow. She's already making more money than some people make at full-time jobs, and she's only been doing it for 8 months. But more than that, she's learned something that I wish every young person would learn. That wealth doesn't have to come from somewhere outside of yourself. It doesn't have to come from a corporation or a boss who controls your destiny. It can come from inside you, from your knowledge, from your willingness to learn, from your ability to see possibilities where others see only problems. I want to leave this knowledge with you the same way my grandmother left it with me. I want you to understand that right now, at this moment, you might be just one good decision away from never worrying about bills the way you do today. Not because you'll suddenly get rich, but because you'll have created something stable, something that grows, something that people want, something that belongs to you and can never be taken from you. So here's what I want you to do. Don't wait. Don't say, oh, I'll start next year when things are less busy. Life doesn't work that way. This year, this season, right now is the perfect time. Go to your local nursery or order seeds online and get a few packets of seeds for herbs I mentioned. Choose 3 or 4, mint, lavender, basil, chamomile, thyme. Pick whichever ones call to you. Spend maybe $20 on seeds and a small bag of soil. Find a corner of your yard or even use pots on your porch. Care for them. Water them when they need water. Learn from mistakes. And when they're ready, when you have enough dried herbs, make your first sale. Don't overthink it. Share with a friend. Sell at a farmer's market. Post on a community board. Start small and let it grow naturally. You don't need a business degree. You don't need a lot of money to start. You don't need anyone's permission. You just need to understand that you already have the most valuable resources. Time, a small piece of land or even a few pots, and the desire to create something real. Nature will do the rest. I think about all the people I never taught this to. I think about all the young folks I met over the decades who were stressed about money, who were working jobs that made them miserable, who didn't know that there was another way. If I could go back, I'd tell them sooner. I'd tell them louder. I'd make sure they understood that the answer wasn't waiting for something external to change. The answer was already in their own backyard. At 91, I don't have many regrets, but I have a deep hope. I have a hope that you'll hear something in this old man's voice that resonates with the deepest part of you. The part that knows that life was meant to be more than just surviving paycheck to paycheck. That part that remembers your grandmother's hands in the soil or wishes you'd had that memory. That part that wants to build something real for yourself and leave something real for the next generation. The world needs more people growing real things. The world needs more people opting out of the stress machine and into the natural abundance that's always been available. The world needs your herbs. The world needs your wisdom. The world needs you to be free enough and secure enough to pass something valuable on to those who come after you. I promise you, if you plant this seed, and I mean that both literally and figuratively, your life will change. Not overnight, but gradually, season by season, you'll feel that weight lift. You'll feel that security grow. You'll wake up one morning and realize you're not afraid anymore. You're not desperate. You're not checking your bank account with dread. You've built something. And that something, that real, living, growing, beautiful thing in your backyard will keep on giving. Now, if this message has touched your heart, if you feel that spark of possibility, please do me one favor. Subscribe to this channel. Not for me, though an old man's heart does appreciate feeling that he still has something valuable to share. Subscribe because you want to keep learning this old wisdom, because you want to remember these lessons when doubt creeps in, because you want to come back to this voice, this perspective, these stories whenever you need to remember that another way is possible. I won't be here forever. None of us will be. But what we learn, what we share, what we build and grow, that lives on. That transforms future generations. Your subscription is a way of saying that you understand this, that you're committed to not just living an easier life yourself, but to keeping this wisdom alive for others. Thank you for letting an old soul share his years with you. Thank you for listening. And thank you for considering the possibility that something as simple, as beautiful, as profound as growing herbs in your backyard could be the thing that finally sets you free. God bless you on your growing journey.